Good morning and welcome to Ag Talk and Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. Anyway, so I guess I've got that coined in. Anyway, so I was looking at the last, the last video, and the shirt that I'm wearing in the last video looks very similar to this one because I bought them at Costco. These are awesome flannel shirts, and I bought 3 or 4 of them at Costco, and they're really pretty warm. And as you know, we are into fall. It is now the 22nd of October. I need to pay my bills today. And yes, we have some craziness going on in the world. So I guess the harvest is back to being well underway for the Midwestern guys, if not wrapping up in some areas. Here on the East Coast, we're just starting to have some decent weather, and with the decent weather comes not decent weather. So I've got several hundred acres of hay that has hit the ground. It's all but one farm second cut, because the first cut ground is so incredibly saturated that if I even walk on it, I come up with wet feet, let alone if I take a tractor out there, I'm going to come up with the ruts. So I'm going to attempt today to hit some first cutting hay with one machine, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm just hoping it goes pretty well. But that's just the long and the short of it there. You got to go where you can go, and that just so happens to be second cut because, let's face it, it's actively growing. It's growing pretty quickly. It's pulling that moisture out of the ground. We've had, in the last month that I've been sitting still, we've had about 4 or 5 inches of rain. So, yes, it's been pretty tough. I'm sure everybody else out there that is in a wet area is dealing with the same thing. And for you guys that are in dry areas, don't be praying for too much rain, because when you get too much rain, it's worse than a drought. I mean, it is worse than a drought. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, when you're in a drought, you know what to expect. When you're in rain, when you're in a rain system that you think you would know what would happen, like, oh, it's going to rain for 15 days, and then after that it'll break. We are going on since July 19th of rain. It's been very, very difficult to get anything done. I have made a mess out of many fields, and if it was a drought year, I would have probably less hay made from the first cut, but usually in the fall it picks up a little bit of moisture, and sometime around September, and that'll kick grass in gear, and then you can get a second cut in October, November, which I'm doing second cut because I can't get onto the first cut, and the first cut is screaming at me, please get me off of here. Timothy does have some mowed with the Hydra Swing, but and he says it's so thick that he couldn't even hardly go, but I just think he needed a bigger tractor. Anyway, I'm going to read some comments here. There's 138 comments on the last video, so I'm going to do my best to siphon through them or sift through them and see what I can get to and answer some of your questions. So let's see. Here in Michigan, this is Corn Farmer Matt. Here in Michigan, we have what's called recreational gas. It's 100% no ethanol. It will run on all my small engine on. Wes, you hit the nail on the head about everything. Keep up the great work. Well, I don't know that I hit the nail on everything, but, I do kind of read a lot, and I think reading is key. I mean, people think that I'm just reading comments and stuff, but I read the news. I have that on my phone, and when I get a minute to, whether I'm waiting for someone or something to get delivered or brought to me or whatever it is, I get a minute, I go to the news channel and I start reading. I like to watch a video here and there on the news channel, but I watch news. I like the news. Sometimes some of the news is pretty shitty, but there you go. Engineering Explained did a good video on ethanol is bad for your engine. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. When Henry Ford developed the Model T Ford, he designed that engine to burn ethanol because gasoline was actually a waste product at that time. Very little was done to the consistency of that product. It was junk. They burned it off or they threw it in a ditch, and that was the end of it. They would put it out in great big ponds and pools and then light it on fire and burn it off because there was no use for the gasoline. It was too unstable. So there you go. Here's one, Douglas Barr. Again, Minnesota Millennial Farmer did a tour on an ethanol plant. It was rather interesting. They went over how went over how part of the leftover grain goes back into high-grade cattle feed without the sugar. There you go. See, and this will bring me to another question that's probably down the line here, but if it doesn't, I better get to it. I'll put this here on my keyboard so I remember to mention what that was. And anyways, ethanol is alcohol. It eats plastic and rubber. Very hard on small engines. I run in all my vehicles just fine. That's because after 2006, I think it was 2005 or 2006, it might have been 2007, all vehicles it was mandated by the government, the government mandated all vehicle manufacturers had to be equipped to run ethanol, E85, and they did it. I mean, they went right to work and they did it. So all of the seals and gaskets that would normally be eaten out by ethanol were replaced. Now, for the guys that have the older vehicles, which I have some of those, yes, you're going to have problems. Ethanol does eat rubber and plastic and other things. Just a little bit, not a lot, but over time it will destroy, stuff. But hey, we're in a throwaway society. Nobody keeps a car more than 4 years anymore anyhow, 4 or 5 years. You get to a car that's that old, it's for a kid, you just throw it away and go buy a brand new one because, there's no pride in keeping an old car. People frown upon you for keeping an old car. They look at you like, oh my God, why is he driving that 2002 Ford truck? Those things are so old. Like my red truck, I love it. People, I like the truck. It's fine. Runs great. It's a good truck. But the other day I drove it. Oh my God, that poor old Ford. Well, 2002 isn't really that old. To me, it's not that old. I was born in 1972. What are you calling me, an antique? I mean, come on. Oh, I'm so sick of the fuel debate. People dispute. People need an education. Thanks for the update, Wes. Enjoy your cuddle time, brother. I don't know. Did I have cuddle time? I don't know. De-hoop. Okay. Next, you're going to tell me solar panels and windmills are great. No. Windmills are okay. Windmills will do their job. They will. Solar panels are stupid. The reason solar panels are stupid is because their highest efficiency is in the dead of summer and the first year that they're out there. So when you get to the summer solstice, that June 22nd or whatever it is, that's when the sun is in the sky the highest and the longest. And if your solar panel is set for that particular event, then that is when it's its most efficient. But then it turns around, and then you got the winter solstice when it is the shortest and the least direct. So a solar panel is only producing at that point like 8% efficiency. It's ridiculous. So you take a windmill that can crank 24/7. It doesn't matter whether it's 0 degrees or 100 degrees. It will crank away, producing energy all day, every day. They're very efficient, and they do their job quite well. But solar panels, no. Solar panels are only at the maximum 22% efficient because they only work in the daytime, and they're 22% efficient when they're brand new, but they degrade rather quickly. A solar panel degrades to half of its original output at 10 years, and by 20 years, it is producing little to no profit at all. So what they do is they use the curve. So if it's 22% at the beginning and it's only 8% at the height efficient at the end, it is somewhere around, 14%, 14% efficient, in the middle. So over its lifetime is 14% efficiency, which is bullshit. It takes up a lot of ground. As they decay, the plastics and the chemicals from the manufacture of the solar panels seep into the ground. And yes, when you do pull out the metal stakes and all the stuff, the infrastructure to make those things work, but you have a polluted piece of property. So we'll see in 20 years from when these things are built what happens with the ground, whether it is sterile or barren, or whether they throw up new solar panels, which I don't believe they will. That's just my thought. The whole ads thing is why I'm glad I'm a die-hard around user and proponent of Google Play Music. I pay for Google Music Premium, and they throw in the premium for free. No ads for me. Okay for you. I'm glad, because you pay me. It's kind of funny. When that came to be, when Google actually put that in there, now the advertisers are no longer paying me. You are paying me. So there's two lines: your ad rate and your your pay rate, your YouTube Red or whatever the heck it is, your Google Plus or whatever you've signed up for, and I get a portion of that money. When it first started, it was like $1.25 a month. Now it's several $100s a month comes from people like you that don't want to watch the ads. So instead of taking 30 seconds of your life and watching ads during the video, you pay me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Studio lights are a bit bright on the old bounce there. Yes, they're not studio lights. Well, I guess they're lights that I put in my house when I built it. Yes, I put them in. Not an electrician. Me, myself, and I. I did it. I like them. I thought about track lighting, but when I was going to do that, people said, you don't want track lighting. You really don't want track lighting. I'm like, why not? I can move them. I can slide them over and then direct the light where I want it. If there's shadows, I can change it. No, you don't want track lighting because gays use track lighting. I'm like, really? Gays prefer track lighting, therefore I shouldn't use track lighting? Like right now, if I had track lights, they wouldn't be fixed sockets. Look, I mean, let me tilt up the computer. No, I can't do it. The computer won't tilt that high. If I had track lighting, I could move this light over there. I could actually turn on the light over in the living room because it's in a straight line. There's 5 lights across at this point. 2 for my office, and then over the living room, there's 3 more, and there's 3 rows. There's 1, 2, 3, 3 rows of 3, and then over there's a staggered row of 3 over the loft that's over there. I put them in, and then there's 2 down in the foyer area. I did it. You know, there's plenty of light in this house. I don't need lamps. But anyways, track lighting for homosexuals, weird. I don't know. I didn't put them in. I guess I was a homophobic at the time. Oh, God. First off, enjoy your coffee, Wes. Bottoms up. Google is adding more ads to your videos. There are 8 ads in this video. And the first time I started to watch the video, there were like 2 ads. Just so you know, I'm glad that you do read the comments for several reasons. Now, this guy, I'm going to read the whole thing because it's quite a long paragraph, but I think it's, I didn't read it. I've never read this one. I'm reading these for the first time today. Okay, it gives another video. It gives you another video to discuss any further concerns, questions, and an opportunity to add more details. It is also good feedback to help make your channel better. Why, thank you. I am only talking about comments that aren't trolls. Thank you. I read the comments, the troll comments too. I just choose not to put those on the air because they don't need any more airtime than they've already wasted. Okay, the ethanol conversation. The only gas that I buy is from Marathon, or try to, because the guy that tuned my Camaro told me that they have the best gas. I don't know. I've had Marathon gas. I don't think. Not all gas is created equally. I agree with that. Not all gas is created equally. The worst you can buy is like Valero. Shitgo is another type of gas that I purchase, and I got water in my gas the other day. My truck isn't running quite right, which will bring me to another subject later on. I contacted Marathon about ethanol in the gas, and they said ethanol is in all 3 grades, but you can buy at the pump, but there is an exception. They said that there are some gas stations that do buy it without the ethanol in the gas, and the pumps will be properly labeled accordingly. They gave me a link to go to the list all of the gas stations that have ethanol-free gas. Wow, puregrass.org. Puregrass.org. I have an older car that is set up to run to 10% ethanol, not 15. Since Trump wants to raise the ethanol percentage to 15, now I'm a little concerned. Keep up the good work. I enjoy your channel and the farming channel too. Okay, so here's the thing. Everybody says it's Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump. This wasn't Trump that did this. We would have 20% ethanol at this point right now if it wasn't for Barry Obama. Now Barry put a stay on the increase in ethanol. for fear of higher food prices. And yes, in the Barry years, the Barry Obama years, we did get better grain prices than we are with Donald. We get better grain prices than we did with George Bush, too. George Bush was helping the farmers by creating more outlets for our grain. Corn, soybeans, by B20 and E85, and by bumping up the ethanol in the fuel as an oxygenant. That was George Bush's thing. Well, just like Trump is doing to what Barry Obama did to what Bush had done, and that was cancel out some of the programs that would benefit certain parts of the country's infrastructure, meaning agriculture and other things. Now, with what Trump is doing, Trump is trying to do, instead of doing some portions of the infrastructure, Donald is trying to do the whole thing. Now, we are the pawns, whether people want to admit this or not, but without farmers, the United States would collapse quite quickly. The world would collapse. Yes, I know there are other countries that produce grains, and they do a very good job at it. I am not saying that the United States is the almighty, but we do have the breadbasket of the world right here in the center of the country. And without that breadbasket to the world, there would be a lot of very, 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 very hungry people and a very, very, very large portion of dying people, dead people, because the poor countries wouldn't be getting the donations of grain, because the rich countries would be buying this grain up, and it would never make it to Ethiopia. Ethiopia would become the desert that it is. So, yeah, there you go. So, trying to bring our industry back, trying to bring, get our farmers in a more secure, stable environment, which is one of the reasons I stopped growing grain, was because it was too unstable. I mean, $5 corn, $7 corn, $3 corn, $5 corn, $7 corn, $3 corn, $7 beans, $11 beans, it's $5 beans. When you hit the $5 beans, you're like, oh, you don't even know what the hell to do. Whereas the mulch hay business, it's pretty steady. They tell you you're getting fucked at the beginning of the year, but at least you can plan then. You can put a crop of corn in the ground, and then, somewheres in Argentina, they planted, 50 million more acres, and then boom, your corn is shit. And here you are like, oh, well, that new combine just cost me $750,000. What am I going to do? You're in trouble. Same thing with hay, but it's you know it. You can say, hey, you know what? I don't have a contract for everything, so I'll just keep my old baler this year or whatnot. That's just what you do. Okay, when will Gobble My Balls start to charge to watch YouTube videos? I don't think Gobble My Balls is going to charge to watch videos. They are already charging the advertising to do so. They may take more from creators, which will also come to bite them in the ass, because creators will just stop coming to create. I've been doing this for 10 years. We're going in next month. December, I'll be doing this for 10 years. So I'm in my 10th year, let's put it that way. So there are not really that many creators like myself that are doing this for 10 years consecutively. I do this every day. There's very rarely that there's a day that I don't do this. But when you take YouTube creators that are like, you know what, I'm gonna get 60% of this income from the ad rates, and Gobble My Balls is going to be getting the remainder. 60% sounds good to me. Now, if they do the flip, switch the flip and go to 40% to the creator, and Gobble My Balls takes 60, which is more than likely what they are going to do at some point. It's like, well, okay, why would I even bother creating? Unless you really love to do it. See, now I have a love for this. I really like doing this. I met up with a guy the other day when I picked up my 8530, and he's like, do you ever get tired of talking? And I said, no, I don't. And I think it's a gift, that I can talk so much. And anybody that I ever meet, they're like, God, you don't ever shut up. But I do shut up. I can be quiet at times, when I'm thinking of what to say. So anyway, yeah. I hate distillers. A fucking waste of money. Between that and the soya bean meal, which is the pressed pulp after the oil is extracted, the soya hulls 3 of the worst feed products going, and I can replace all of those protein feeds with a better grass utilization and supplement with barley or wheat. I fed cows for many, many years, and we used distillery grains, brewer's grains, distillery grains, and we also used soya bean meal. Produced a lot of milk on that. I feel that you're wrong. Okay. Oh, wait. Adam Porter. You've got another. Okay. See, the problem with Adam Porter is, here we go. When I'm reading these comments, I do newest first. So his second comment was actually newer than his first. So let me read this. What do you mean by grass-fed beef is beef I take it is steers killed off grass? What? What do you mean by grass-fed beef? I take it is steers killed off grass. Well, okay, so I'm trying to understand this guy. Surely, depending on grazing conditions, you will have a very varied meat quality, as not all grass systems are the same. Grazing cattle on hard, high fiber, low energy grass is going to take a long time and grow them, and they'll never fatten. Though on lush grass, towards slightly managed to the high quality, you will grow cattle and they will fatten, but the cattle need to be killed younger. All right. Listen, I've eaten grass-fed beef. I've eaten it from many different suppliers and growers, and I would rather, I don't know, chew on this spit towel. It's awful. I'm sorry. I have never found grass-fed beef to be tasty enough for me to really say, we're gonna have grass-fed beef. Oh my God, I can't wait to get to the Cracker Barrel. They got grass-fed beef, and that's the best shit out there. Never. I want that nice marbled piece of meat that tastes good. Not an old shoe leather. Good food. And I don't know. Corn, baby, corn. And if you don't like you don't like distillery grains, and you don't like soybean meal, and you don't like whatever the hell else there is out there, good for you. It's okay. You can grow your grain, or you can grow your beef cows the way you want to. And if you have customers that think it tastes good, that's okay. They obviously have never had a good piece of beef. Anyway, whatever. Enough of that. All right. In Sweden, we pay $9 a gallon for diesel. Over 50% is taxed. It's ridiculous. And the milk price is $2 a gallon. Farming is never easy. Really like your videos on both channels. Keep up the good work, please. No grass-fed beef for me, Mike from Sweden, who try to survive as a dairy farmer. Yeah, I'd rather eat an old dairy cow. And believe me, I was raised on old dairy cows when I was a kid, versus anything grass-fed. Wes, ethanol is really white lightning, is it not? Yes, it absolutely is. What they sell to you in ethanol is called denatured alcohol, which has something in it to make it not palatable. Not that I would be drinking white lightning, pure white lightning causes blindness and brain dead. Okay, Wes, order an external exclosure from Newag.com or microcenter.com. Whatever. I think that's for my other hard drives. Grass-fed beef is about like eating a piece of leather belt. Nasty as it gets. Agreed. Soy fucks the DPF and the SCR system. Anything over 20% voids warranties on over-the-road truckers. It clogs up the systems. Get rid of the DPF and the SCR systems, and I'll be all for soy biofuel. Agreed with the rest. Good video. Thanks. Okay, so... oh, yeah. Diesel particulate filters, and they do. That screws stuff up. It does. Well, the thing with pure vegetable oil or soy oil is that it's thick in the wintertime. So you just don't really want to be using it in the wintertime. And for those systems, it's not. When the government gets into something, they can fuck it up so bad that nobody can use it. That's all. I mean, you could take running water from your faucet, let the government alter it to what their specifications are, and it won't run no more. And they'll tell you it's your fault. That's all there is to it. The best milk I ever had was warm milk that I expressed straight from my neighbor's cow. I don't like that. When I milk cows, you open that bulk tank lid, there's a smell from the warm milk dumping into that thing. Not good. To me, it's not good. After it cools down, it's great. The best you'll ever have. When I come to visit around Thanksgiving, I'll explain the name. Explain the name. Oh, De Janeiro too? Oh, that's fine. Whatever. You can explain. Rio de Janeiro. De Janeiro. De Janeiro. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of three names. I would De Janeiro. Well, whatever. Soybean oil is also in a lot of food products people eat every day. Absolutely. Yeah. You can take soybean oil, dump it on the ground out there. It might kill a spot today, but it's biodegradable. It'll break down. I got choked about the F word. Choked. The reason why we fight these country is for the oil. Congratulations. I'm glad you figured that out. Our country thinks that if we use up all their oil, their country will still have oil, and they will be able to charge whatever they want because they want for our oil. It's called politicians' greed. That's all. Oh, absolutely. We're not going to use our oil. We have a huge oil reserve up in the north, and actually below our feet it's full of natural gas. We have no shortage of fuel. We also have coal in the coal region, and I was up there 20 years ago, and at that point they said there's still 500 years of current consumption left in the ground in the coal region of Pennsylvania alone. And that's just Pennsylvania. We have coal in Virginia, Wyoming. It's all over the country. Ohio. I think they're everywhere. Not in New Jersey. I don't think we have any coal here. So, yeah. Yep. Your comments on grass-fed beef are not accurate. Confinement is the key to tender, fat grass-fed beef. Minimum of 8 weeks getting high-protein baleage and little hay. Supplement with salt and minerals. Pasture-fed will work okay, but tenderness will be lacking. Okay, once you go into confinement, that's when people get fucked up. So you're going to have PETA coming to your farm over confinement on your grass-fed operation. So just be careful with that. We did a confinement feeding on it was an Angus Holstein mix, and it got corn silage, it got dairy feed, it got alfalfa and clover hay, and boy was that the best. That was the best beef we ever had and raised, and that was in confinement. You do have to kill it younger because their knees go bad. Concrete is hard on an animal's knees, whether you like it or not. So there you go. Oh, biodiesel. Good in principle, just don't leave it in the tractor for an extended period unless you intend to run your tractor on fungus. Fungi. Okay, like you said, you can drink biodiesel. Lots of bugs do as well. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. But that fungus that grows in the fuel tanks was out long before biodiesel was. It was in those tanks. It grows in regular diesel fuel too. Wes, I live in western Iowa. I worked at a feed yard back in the 90s when the cattle got to full feed. The ration was 23 pounds of corn, 7 to 8 pounds of corn silage with some hay mixed in. These cattle were about 18 months old when they went to slaughter. Grain-fed beef has more marbling in the meat and tastes better over grass-fed beef. The feed yard was a 10,000 head yard. Yes, I've been past the Monford feedlots out in Colorado, and it's just like stages. They're stages, and they feed them. Man, do they feed them. Holy shit. They do feed them. Our glorious governor, Phil Murphy, just raised New Jersey gas tax another 4.3 cents to 41.4 cents a gallon. Since ethanol blended gas has a reduced mileage per gallon, people will pay more gas compared with non-ethanol fuel. This is an undisputable fact, and for this reason alone, I don't see how any self-respecting Republican, Federalist, or red-blooded individual can support more government taxation through the backdoor gimmick. I'm not supporting gas tax on anything. The problem, well, do I support a gas tax? Okay, just to clear this up, driving is a privilege. We don't have to drive. We could all ride bicycles. It's free to ride a bicycle. We'd get killed on the road. We could ride our horses, but there are restrictions on the roadways for horses, and trespassing is still illegal. So, for the most part, it's a good argument whether it's our God-given right to drive a car, tractor, or motorcycle on the roads. But the tax that we pay, should only go to highway maintenance, roadway and highway maintenance, which isn't exactly the case. New Jersey roads can be deplorable at best at times in the spring. Pennsylvania roads are way worse. And for all the money that they collect in that tax, it should be distributed strictly for concrete. Not this shitty macadam, but concrete. We can produce concrete here. Right here in Pennsylvania, we have the largest Portland cement mills and all sorts of stuff. We don't have to export it to China anymore. We could just put it on our roadways, and they last for a very, very long time. Not 5 years, not 10 years, but like 20 years before you really have problems with concrete, if done correctly. And I do see that Pennsylvania is going back to concrete roads, which I'm quite happy about because concrete lasts a long time. It's just better. Asphalt's a good quick fix, but it's not a long-term solution because oil does break down, and hot and cold. If you ever got millings for your driveway or millings for your farmyard from off the roadways, and you wonder why it is so dry and crispy and it doesn't harden up quite like you would think it would, like a roadway, it's because that oil has deteriorated and broke down. If you've ever been on an old roadway that's been abandoned for anything more than 10 years, it is a grass field because grass and weeds will grow through there, further breaking it down, and you get what you call like a sandy substance. So, the new macadam is nowhere near as oily as the old asphalt or macadam was, and it breaks down much quicker. But that's just what the gas tax is supposed to go for. Unfortunately, they piss it down another rat hole someplace, and that's what you get. Okay, here's the facts on refineries burn off more fuel out. This is the answer, or this is the one I wanted to talk about. That's why my pen is on my keyboard. Here's the facts. The refineries burn off more fuel out there than most people know about. When you see a fire out of the flares is fuel that has been stored too long. Unleaded gas has a storage life of about 6 months. Ethanol is 3 months. We have plenty of oil and fuel. It's all controlled by Exxon, BP, Centex, Conoco, and so on. Don't forget Gulf. We have 4 refineries in Montana, and our fuel is still through the roof. Also, we ship the shit out of gas, diesel from Canada, yet our refineries burn off excess gas. It's bullshit. Okay, so now we're going to go into it's actually part of that question. Hold on a second here. We're getting there. Isn't most of the corn and beans grown for animal feed? Yes. Yes, it is. And after you make ethanol, it's still animal feed. You don't see soybeans in the grocery store. Hey, buy your soybeans. You can make blah, 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 blah out of it. No, you can get soybeans, roasted soy nuts, as they call them. They're not nuts. They're soybeans. They could call them roasted soybeans. I don't know why they have to use the word nuts. It's a marketing ploy. Seen a picture on Facebook of a 20-plus foot snake in a round bale of hay. I've seen that. I have seen that. Now, I really want to get to this one because it was talking about taking a gallon and a half of fuel to produce 1 gallon of ethanol. Okay. So, and that is part of this, the facts on refineries burning fuel. In order to make fuel, you have to superheat that oil, the crude oil, to like 2,000 degrees. It is some insane temperature. Where does that heat come from? That heat comes from, you guessed it, oil. It's oil. So for every 55-gallon drum of oil, a barrel of oil is technically 44 gallons. And I can explain how they came up with a barrel of oil at 44 gallons over a 55-gallon drum. Because most people in the world think that a drum of crude is 55 gallons because it's a drum, right? Have you ever seen a 44-gallon drum? No, you never did. It just didn't exist. They don't exist. But a barrel of oil is 44 gallons. So how did they come up with 44 gallons? Well, they used to take the oil from the oil fields in Oil City, Pennsylvania. I believe it came from Oil City, Pennsylvania, is where they came up with a barrel of oil, because they didn't start pumping oil in the Middle East until the 1950s. But a barrel of oil was an open-top barrel of oil, and the roads were rough. And they'd slosh, bloop, 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 and the oil would come out of the drum, and the average gallons of oil in those drums after transport to the refinery was 44 gallons. And that's how they came up with a barrel of oil, because that was the average from the drum. And it wasn't like these nice 55-gallon drums. They were wooden drums. They were wooden drums like you would see Jack Daniels storing whiskey in, aging whiskey. That's what they were. So 44 gallons, that's how they came up with a barrel of oil. Through sloppage. It slopped out over the top. That was loss. So anyway, that oil, they won't release how many gallons of oil it takes to produce gasoline, diesel fuel, butane, propane, and all these other methane gases and stuff that they separate in the cooling tower after they superheat that fuel. Okay, so, and it goes through that refinery process. The last is bunker oil, and that is what they burn in. I think they burn it in ships, and they burn bunker oil in, I think, trains. No, they're running diesel and trains. But bunker oil runs in electric to produce electric, and it is really thick and heavy, and it's you gotta heat that up before it burns also. Excuse me. So yes. So anybody that comes out there and says, it takes 1.3 gallons to produce a gallon of ethanol. Well, when you're done, you have a gallon of ethanol, and you have the byproduct of corn distillery grains, or you have soybean meal after you crush it. So you still have byproducts that are usable by the original users anyway, the animal that is being fed the byproducts, which is distillery grains or soybean meal. Now, some people obviously think that it's shit feed, but it's not. It's a very good source of protein, both of them. All the sugars are out of them. All the starch is burned off for the oil is out of the soybeans, and the starch or the sugars are out of the corn, and that's where you get your protein from brewer's grain or distillery grains. So they're still going to feed cows. Whereas, yes, it takes heat to make these things. It takes heat to make a gallon of gasoline. It takes heat to make a gallon of diesel fuel, propane, butane, methane, and there's a whole different list of the different. I used to have that chart. I thought it was really neat to, as the tower cools, where they suck off the different vapors of gasoline, and then it goes through the condensers, which reliquefies it, and then bada bing, bada boom, you get your fuel. So there's a lot that goes on in a refinery, and there's a lot of fuel that is burnt in a refinery. And yes, when gasoline gets old, it goes back through the reblending process or back through the refinery process. I don't believe they just burn it off. I do believe it goes through the refinery process again, or into a blending process. So maybe your lower grade fuels get the recycled fuel, or the fuel that was not sold, or because we do have storage facilities in Philadelphia and all over the country where you see these huge tanks that are full of gasoline and diesel fuel, and those are the reserves. And every once in a while, when the price of fuel gets too high, the U.S. government will release some of the reserves. And it's always a good thing to do, because they got to recycle that shit anyway. It can't just sit in there forever. I mean, when I was a kid and we had leaded gasoline, that stuff, you could put it out in the sun in a glass jar, and then in the spring with my grandmother rototilling the garden, and then in the fall when you needed to rototill the garden again to put down all the trash that was left behind, because she used to use newspapers as mulch, and I had to rototill them in so they didn't blow around. You'd put that same gasoline in there, and the rototiller ran just as good as it did in the spring 4 or 5 months later. So that was just it. Isn't most of the corn and beans grown for animal feed? I think I'm past that. The biggest change in agriculture you've seen in my time. What did I write? I wrote that down. The kill off the family dairy. That's the biggest change. There's a lot of changes, and that's a really valid question, and it's only one sentence long, but it will probably require a lot of talking. There's been so many changes in agriculture, it's not even funny. And what I saw when I was a kid was moldboard plows. Chisel plows were fairly new on the scene, and disc harrows, and then they gave way to land levelers, and the moldboard plow went by the way of the Dodo. Even though I have two of them, I haven't used them in years. They're good for busting sod. When you take a hayfield and convert it back to something else, they're still useful. They're getting to the point where you can't even buy parts for a moldboard plow anymore. I don't know if John Deere still produces one, a new one. But yeah, so tillage practices are some of the largest changes. Fertilizer programming. Fertilizer programs have changed a lot. We used to just put enough fertilizer on to grow a decent crop. Now it's just fertilize the piss out of it until you can't push the plant anymore. And, it's fertilizer. There's a lot of fertilizer being used more efficiently. Computers in agriculture. Yes, computers have been in agriculture since the 1970s, from analog computers in our TR-70, which told us when an elevator wasn't working or whether the sensor eye got chewed up by the little spinning wheel. They've been in there, but as computers progress and agricultural commodities become, the profit margins become tighter. You have to equal out your fields or level out your fields. And a computer is able to do that and store that data so that the farmer doesn't have to store it in his mind. I mean, years ago, if you had a low spot in a field, you remembered, I got to put more cow shit there because that will increase the yield in that spot. It should level out the fields. Well, now the cows aren't on the farm anymore like they used to be. They're all in feedlots and things and huge mega dairies, and it's different. So now we use chemical fertilizers, and our computers just equal the fields out. It's through mapping and satellite imagery, and I mean you can through a satellite plant next year where your fertilizer starter fertilizer row was the following year, and put that corn right over that starter fertilizer row, and that'll move it over to the one side or the other so that you pick up that starter fertilizer from the year before that's left in there to boost your plant's vigor, early seed vigor. It's amazing what they can do, or what we can do now versus what we could do when I was young. I mean, we don't even need markers. I saw a brand new corn planter go down the road the other day. Well, not the other day, but this spring, and it still had the old drop markers, and I was like, God, a simple GPS unit, you don't need that. I haven't used mine in years. As a matter of fact, I never used mine. Ours broke, and my dad never fixed it when I was a kid. I was so good at planting corn by the eye. I was 38 inches, man. 38 inches. I can still do that, too. And same with the grain drill. You can't see where I've planted soybeans where there's a break, except right in the very beginning of the row. But I haven't planted beans now in a few years. So, but anyways, yeah, there's a lot of changes in agriculture. Cab comforts, tractors themselves have become Cadillacs of agriculture. You used to get on a 40-20 and work all day and thought you had life by the balls. Now you get on a 40-20 and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this when I was young. You get in a 75-30 over a 78-10, and it's like, wow, the 78-10 was an awesome tractor, but you get in the 75-30 and we're talking a 10-year-old tractor now. You get into an 80 or 6215R or 6210R, and it's like, wow, this is a spaceship. It's the most comfortable thing you could get in, because there are fewer and fewer farmers, and we have to do more and more work, and we have to be comfortable to do that. So it's all relevant, I guess. More work for one guy. He has to be comfortable to do it and get more production out of that guy. Just like me, I'm going to be baling hay well into winter this year, and I don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. But the nice thing is, the dew won't set on the hay, the frost will. And a baler will not know the difference between frost and dry hay. Isn't that something? Now, that'll tell you I've baled hay in the winter before. I don't like doing it, but I've done it. So, yeah, there's a lot of changes. Big balers, they came out in the 70s. Big square balers came out in the 70s. And before that, there was the Heston hay stacker, or the loafer. John Deere called it a loafer, I guess. And that took hay, blew it up into a thing, compressed it, and then it would drop it out on the ground. They had a whole loaf grabbing system, and then you would take it to your cattle that way. Those were some of the first, and then Heston came out with the 4800, the 4700, and the 4800, I think, or maybe it was a 46 and the 4800 big square balers, which revolutionized hay baling. And of course, later New Holland got in with their 2000, and Krone came in later with the 9090 or the 8080. I think it was the 8080. Yeah, the Krone 8080, and Kloss came in with their quadrant baler, and but Heston was the first to produce a large square baler. In the 70s, New Holland came in 86, and they ran that 2000 baler till 96. Even though the last 2 years, I don't think they sold any because they were junk. They might have sold them right up to 96, and then in 1997, they came out with the 595 baler, which again was leaps and bounds above the 2000, but it was still a really bad baler. Heston really had a good baler at the time. But like all things, they get surpassed by someone that is bigger and better, or maybe more desirable. I mean, look at myself. For many years, I was the #1 farm YouTube channel on the internet. I never really cared one way or the other, and I still don't care today. I have been passed by several. A millennial farmer, he passed me recently, and he is charging like a raging bull down on how farms work, and they passed me a year and a half ago or so, which kudos to them. I mean, I'm an old dog. I'm 46 years old. These are young kids that are coming up in the world, and they got ambitions, and maybe they're a little less offensive than I am. I'll tell you how it is, and don't give a shit. Those guys, they think in their mind, you know what? If I say this or if I say that, Google's going to say, none for you, and they cut you back. But I have some of the most loyal viewers on the internet. And if you look at my view counts versus my subscriber base and other channels, whether it be farming channels or automotive channels, they have this huge subscriber base, but they have a very low viewer base. And hey, look at this channel. I mean, this is the Ag Talk in the Raw. This video from last week, October 15th, that got over 7,000 views with under 10,000 subscribers. Take 100,000 subscribers and get 70,000 views in that week. It's very difficult to do. It just is. The video I posted yesterday, I have 123,000 subscribers. And I got, 29,000 views yesterday? So there's 30,000. So 60, 90, 120. I've only got a quarter of my subscribers actually viewed the video. And of those subscribers, only 49% were actually subscribers. The other 51% were people that don't subscribe to my channel. And it's like that all over YouTube. I didn't get my silver play button. I'm not going to get my silver play button. I have emailed. I have written. I have done all kinds of things. YouTube does not want to give me the silver play button because I am of a mindset that does not conform to what Gobble My Balls wants. So I'm not going to get it. And it's okay. I am okay with that. It's fine. I don't have to have it. Do I know that I earned it? Hell yes, I earned it. Am I going to cry and whine and be a bitch about it? No, not really. It would be nice if out of the blue they said, hey, you know what? We forgot you. Here's your code. But that doesn't happen. But anyways, I'm almost at 50 minutes now, and like the guy at the John Deere dealership said, God, what the heck is Knowlton? I think his last name was Knowlton. I'm pretty sure. I For the love of God, I can't remember. But anyways, hold on a second because I'm pretty sure I could find that information. Let me get my thing there. If anybody wants to know the information on my phone, you got to shoot me first, and then you got to do the facial recognition so that you can get to that. So give me a fart. Oh, I canceled that. I'm on the wrong side here. But I know this is it. And there's only 32 comments. Nathan Kaufman. I was close, you know. Nathan Kaufman, and I am not sure. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right. So this guy's a young-looking fella. Nathan is. And he comes up to me, and he's got this really pretty girl with him. Beautiful girl. Beautiful young girl. And I said to her, I says, did he drag you up here just to see me? And he says, no, she drove. And I thought, God, he doesn't look old enough to be her father. And she looks pretty young for his wife, but stranger things have happened. So I didn't want to say, oh, nice to meet, you know, you and your wife, and it be his daughter. So I sent him a message on Instagram. I said, so did I get tired of talking, is what I said. It was, now I have to ask you, that young lady that was with you, your daughter, ? And he said, Lauren is my daughter, freshman in Elizabethtown College. She loves helping me when she's home. Daughters are pretty awesome. There you go. And that's awesome. You know, it's good. My daughter is just now starting to come to the farm. If you are on my Instagram, you'll see that there was a photograph of her with my aunt with her wig. That was a wig, by the way. It was not her hair color, but my daughter's hair color is that color. It's kind of shocking. We call her the heat miser, which is kind of funny. But if you know who the heat miser is, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah, the Burl Ives, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had the heat miser. And when she first did that, it was like, oh my God, what did you do? You know, but, you know, I love my daughter. But she's coming around. She is going to be learning how to drive tractors. She didn't want to do it when she was young. So, yeah, I'm hoping that she follows through and does decide, Dad, I'm sorry. I should have learned how to do this a long time ago. And she can come work for me then. Wouldn't that be awesome? But anyhow, yeah. Anyway, with that being said, we're at 52 minutes, and Nathan Kaufman and your daughter Lauren, thanks for coming out. I did enjoy talking to you, even though I don't think I heard Lauren's voice. She just sat there with a smile on her face. And no, he didn't come to see me on purpose. He just so happened to be there. And he's like, oh my God, a celebrity, you know, because when you're a celebrity. Anyways, with that being said, I'm out of here. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And hopefully, next Wednesday, or this coming Wednesday, I get to do this all over again with these questions and answers and lots of fun stuff out there.